Welcome to this first webinars that we are offering, um, organized by the Australian Institute of Higher and Further Education. And the objective is of this presentation today is to give you the current information about wellness, and that will help you, that you can take away today and apply. And we are sure, we are very confident that there will be a huge positive impact in your life if we apply that. So there are three presenters today, Dr. Peter Dingle, Ms. Madeline Bishop, and myself. So each presenter will be doing 20 minutes or so, their presentation approximately, and there will be about 5 minutes time for the questions. So if you do have any questions, you can post them on the chat box, and we try to answer them within that time, 5 minutes. If you can't answer, we try to gather those questions, and maybe we will post the answers later on to you. So without taking too much of time, I will introduce to the presenter today. To start with, Dr. Peter Dingle. Now, Peter has done so much of research, so much of presentation about the gut health. I don't think there is anybody who knows about gut health like Dr. Peter Dingle. He is Australia's most engaging and innovative thought leader on the topic of the gut health. Dr. Dingle has spent the past 35 years as a researcher, educator, communicator, and author. Formerly an associate professor at Murdoch University in Western Australia. Dr. Dingle has written 17 books on living well, including Medical Myths and Health, Lies That Are Killing Us, Overcoming Illnesses, Gut Secret, and Ready Set Gut Health, and is currently finishing off his next book, The Complete Reflux Solution. Dr. Dingle wrote his first paper on gut allergies, the peanut hypothesis, back in 2003, and co-authored one of the gut covert link in 2020. Sorry, yeah. In 2002, he also coordinated the research and published the paper which led to the banning of tobacco smoke in Western Australia, and then ultimately around the country. Blending motivation and humor, Dr. Dingle regularly appears on state and national media. He was the presenter on the award-winning SBS program, Is Your House Killing You? And appeared regularly on ABC, Can We Help? Dr. Dingle is also the grandfather of the acclaimed Living Smart program. In 2019, Dr. Dingle did more than 90 presentations on gut health around Australia to more than 10,000 people. He now does most of his work online as he does it today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Peter Dingle. Dr. D. Come on, Peter.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's great to be here and great to be presenting to some people. A little bit of background. What drives me? I'm passionate about health. I'm passionate about health. I'm passionate about science because I'm one of those strange people who just loves getting on and searching all the scientific journals and just reading them and interpreting them and putting them together in a book or in a seminar or a presentation and sharing it with the public. And that's my third passion, getting the message to the public, because a lot of people don't understand science, they don't understand health. And my message is there is so much evidence and there is so much research out there on all of these health issues and gut health issues that it is absurd the way we're going in terms of we're getting sicker on the health, and because we really do know what to do. Now, I say that I want to put the research in perspective, a current day event. You've probably heard of COVID, haven't you? Everyone's probably heard of COVID. Yep. Yeah, thought so. Well, guess what? There's over 300,000 studies just on COVID. So I need to put it in perspective. When something is happening, there is so much research. Now I'm going to come back, and while I'm not going to post up the studies and links and things like that now, for the very simple reason, I want to get you excited about the gut. But what's important is that I'm also on all the social media out there. I've even started on Telegram and TikTok lately, and just putting the messages out there, trying to get people excited about health, wellness, and the gut. And it's really simple for me. The gut isn't something new. In fact, we've known about the role of gut health for thousands of years. In fact, we've known of it, it predates humans. In fact, the great apes know to search out certain herbs and plants and leaves and do certain things to fix their gut. Dogs, for example, will search out green leaves of plants and things to actually help when their digestion isn't so good. So animals know about it. We knew about it. And if you read some of the quotes from Hippocrates or Hippocrates, 400 BC, death sits in the bowels. Bad digestion is the root of all evil. All disease begins in the gut. Now, the great thing is that we knew all this up until 50 years ago and then began to forget it. And what has turned this all around is literally the science of gut health, which really took off 30 years ago and more so the last 10 years. The last 10 years, there is just so much information, thousands and thousands of studies. But the trick is trying to put it all together. And I want to sum up my view on it. Poor gut health is the single biggest issue confronting Australia today. You say, well, but what about COVID? I'm sorry, folks, gut health, because gut health is also linked to COVID. It's one of the predisposing risk factors for it, along with lots of other things. And so my message to people, when they come to my talks, and we did one last night, and I've got one in a couple of weeks down south, people come with a condition, I say, fix the gut, fix the gut, fix the gut. It's a simplest strategy with all the background. And of course, when you think about the gut and gut conditions, the first thing that you think about is all of those conditions around the gut. So it might be reflux, also termed GERD, NERD, and everybody knows what that is. Everyone gets it at some stage. Pregnant women get it frequently. And when you've been abusing your digestive system for your lifetime, you tend to get it after about the age of 30. So if you're young and listening to this and you haven't had it yet, don't worry, it's on its way, because the vast majority of people will suffer from it. Now, that the occasional bout's not an issue. It's when it becomes a long-term and a serious issue and people find it as a devastating illness. There's another one called LPR, and no one knows what that is. That's called laryngopharyngeal reflux. And while you may not know it, you've probably heard about it. These are the people who go, and they've got the ear, nose, throat infections all the time. They've got, in fact, it's the single biggest cause of throat infections and ear infections in kids. So when they go and they get the antibiotics, they're doing the exact opposite. What they should be doing is fixing the silent LPR, which is silent reflux. And all of these other conditions, I'm not going to go into the names there, but you'll see a couple of them. I put some percentages there. And those percentages literally show you the rates of increases in these diseases over the last 20 to 30 years. So what we're seeing is the fastest growing diseases in the Western world and in the developing world, countries like China and things which are rapidly, they're catching up with all of these diseases. So essentially, while the experts out there will go, oh, we don't know what causes it, we do. It's our Western dietary lifestyle and diets. And when I say lifestyle, there's more than just diet involved in there. There's a whole raft of things that we need to consider. So we've got all of these conditions. You see down the bottom there, stomach and colon cancer, 300% increase. Wow. Normally when you get a 10 to 20 or 30% increase, that is huge. That's really large. But now we're talking 500, 300, 400. All of these diseases are rapidly increasing. But when we talk about gut on the broader perspective, we're talking about all of the conditions that the gut influences. Now, I'm going to try to explain it later on, but I want to just touch it now. When I talk about the gut, I don't just talk about the microbiota, which is the microorganisms in the large intestine. I talk about the whole digestive system because it's all connected. And what we know is that gut, your gastrointestinal tract, is literally linked to, as far as I can tell, every single disease. Now, I've been talking on this for over 10 years, and thousands of people come up and said, look, Peter, is it, or Dr. Dingle or Peter, whoever you are, is it linked with acne? And, if I didn't know back then, I'd go back, get onto the journal articles, try to find something, and guess what it is? So it didn't matter what condition people came up to me with. If I didn't know it already, alopecia and the different types of alopecia, which, it's amazing. And so if you look at this list here, you've got the virtually the extensive list of all of the major illnesses we're confronted with now. And there's cancers there, but it's not just cancers of the gut and cancers of the esophagus and stomach cancers. It's cancers all around the body. It literally affects all the hormone cancers, the women's related cancers and things like that, breast cancer and so on. But if you go through that list, you'll see you've got your mental health issues, and I'll touch on that in a moment. You've got your mental health issues, that ADHD, and you've got the autism spectrum disorder. This is the stuff that I was researching back in 2001, 2, 3. And we were looking at why these kids were responding to food and nutrition. And that's when we started linking it back to the gut and saying, wow. And we know on all of these conditions, there's an extensive links to the gut. Then you've got your long-term chronic mental illness conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. Parkinson's disease, we know at least 50% of Parkinson's disease is directly linked to the gut. Wow, that's huge. And so that's why when people come to me with a condition, and remember, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a real one. I have a PhD, which is called a doctorate, and I'm a researcher. I go and research and I come back and say, yep, it is linked there. And then you got all of these other conditions, allergies, including peanut allergies, which I wrote on back in 2003 and 2005, arthritis. Now, how we know they're linked to the gut is because, first of all, we in the studies on humans, it comes back and it shows there's a link to it. And then we go and do the animal experiments, and then we do all the other human intervention experiments. But in nearly all of these conditions, you have to create an animal model. Let's say arthritis. If you want to test a drug for arthritis, you've actually got to create the state of arthritis in these mice and the rats to test for the drugs. So guess how they create arthritis in mice? Yes, by poisoning the gut and stopping the production of what's called collagen down in the gut. And as a result, you get leaky gut or hyperpermeability membrane. So you get this leaky gut and it leads to arthritis. So they can come up with a drug. That sounds a bit funny, doesn't it, how that happens? But all of these conditions. So if we can just work on one aspect, work on the gut, then all of the other conditions, they're not going to disappear, because I try to explain to people it's a 5% to 95. For some conditions, you can totally reverse them. Other conditions, you'll just get small, simple benefits. But always start with the gut. Now, why is it linked to the gut? If we just go and look at the links that the gut has directly with all of the various organs and systems of the body. Now, everybody at the top of that screen there, you can see the brain nervous system link. And everyone's heard of the gut-brain axis. Everyone's heard about the microbiome and how that microbiota can actually, which is the microorganisms in your life, can influence how you think, feel, act, and behave, like I've already described. Day-to-day functioning, your focus, concentration, right through to the long-term chronic illnesses. We know that. And a large part of that happens through what's called the vagus nerve. And that can affect how you think, feel, and act. But on the other side, it can also affect your gut. So how you think can alter your gut microbiome. Now, you know that one. You've heard about that. There's a lot of meaning. But did you know you've got a gut-kidney link? You've got a gut-skin link. I don't have time to go through them all, but these are critical for your health and well-being. So the gut-skin one, for example, virtually every skin condition is linked to the gut, linked to the skin pH, linked to the microbiome. You've got a skin microbiota. So you've got different microorganisms growing on your skin under different conditions, which is influenced by your large intestine. Wow. That's why two of the main drugs to deal with acne, for example, one's called Roaccutane. It's a super enhanced vitamin A. And essentially it works by working on the gut. And the other one is antibiotics. Antibiotics obviously fix the gut or alter the gut and give you short-term relief for acne. Whereas what we should be doing is long-term fixing the gut. Your endocrine system, your hormones, particularly ladies, postmenopausal, and so on, very important for regulating the development and of your hormones, particularly estrogen. You've got a gut-liver axis. And a lot of people ask me, Peter, should I do a liver cleanse? And my message is really do a gut cleanse, because everything from the gut, its first port of call is the liver. Then you've got your lung respiratory system link. And that's absolutely critical, because what happens is you have a respiratory microbiome. Up until about 20 years ago, everyone thought the respiratory system was sterile. Now we know that your lung respiratory microbiome is linked with your gut respiratory microbiome. So if it's sick in the gut, it's sick in the lungs. And at this time, with COVID, it's really important to get both of those in sync healthy. You've got an eye link, a cardiovascular, a gut, and of course your immune system is coordinated and regulated via your gut axis. So hence why, if we just flip back that one slide, you can understand that it's linked with all these various conditions out there. So where does this take us? Well, even with women's health, and I put this up because at virtually every one of my talks, it's 90% women who come. Even when I do a men's health talk, it's 50% women. I find it amazing. But the hormones, women's hormones, men's hormones too, but women's hormones are regulated in the gut. Your vaginal microbiota composition, which will determine the health and, of course, overgrowth or not, is determined largely by your large intestine. And as I'll show you other things, obesity, endometriosis, fertility, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and all the autoimmune diseases which seem to predominate in women, they're linked to the gut. And so where do I start? Well, I don't like how most people work on the gut, because they'll give you some basics to try and fix one part. I like to share the big picture of the gut. And your gut is like a rainforest. Every part of it, your mouth is, your esophagus is, your stomach is, your small intestine, large intestine. They're like these different ecological systems. And there are basic principles of ecology that stand true if you're talking about a rainforest and a gut. And one of those you probably heard about is the pH. And I just wanted to highlight that the single simplest strategy to understand and work on the gut is go back to the basic principles of it. And here is a really, really simple example. In a good gut, so from your mouth down to your bottom, literally, this is what should be happening. You should have an alkaline mouth so that you literally have no tooth decay. It should be a pH of 7, up to 7.5, something like that. And that is determined by the 1.5 liters of saliva that you're secreting into your mouth every single day. Your esophagus has its own pH. Your stomach has a pH of 1.4 to 3. The stomach acid pH is actually 1. And a lot of people get this so confused. Some people say there's not enough stomach acid. The naturopaths tend to, and the doctors say there's too much stomach acid. And let me tell you, they're both wrong. Oh, how can I say that? Because it's more to do with the mixing of the stomach acid than it is to do with the amount that's produced. And so if we go back to some basics, and then in your small intestine, straight out of your small intestine, so from your stomach, it goes into that squiggly, long small intestine. We call it the small intestine, but I should be called the long squiggly wiggly one. And as soon as it does, your pancreas injects in sodium bicarb. So sodium bicarbonate, and it injects in sodium bicarb, and it injects in bile from your gallbladder, comes via your gallbladder into your top of your small intestine, and both of those are alkaline. So all of a sudden it goes from acid stomach to alkaline in the small intestine. And what that does is the stomach acid has all these functions, including killing all the microbes and getting the enzymes working. And the alkaline in the small intestine does the same. It says you can't grow microorganisms like acidophilus that you get in all your yogurts, which is acidophilus means, by the way, acid loving. And so because it's alkaline, they can't grow. And if they do grow, you'll end up with something called SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And that is the burping and the bloating. You got all this gas building up, and it's too low down to, come out as a burp, and too high up to come out as a oops at the other end. And so it ends up with a lot of people bloating out there. And a lot of people don't know what it is. The medical profession don't know what it is. But in most cases, it's the wrong pH, which has set these mechanisms, or the wrong microorganisms have created the wrong pH. So if we go back to basics first, and some really simple strategies can make a huge difference, really simple strategies very, very quickly. So I want to wrap it up to say that fixing the gut is the most core important thing that we can all do for our own health and well-being. There is no doubt about it. The second most important thing is that there are some really simple strategies, but we have to look at it from the big picture. If you've got something wrong with your stomach, then guess what? You've probably got something wrong with your small intestine and large intestine, and probably up in your mouth as well. The whole system is connected, so you've got to treat it as a whole ecological system. It's all connected. And if you do that approach, then you start to fix it. So if you've got reflux, then fix that. And in the process, start to fix the other ones down the way. So it's about looking at it as a whole. I want to finish up with my simple quote, and it's really easy. What is good for you is good for the gut. And what is good for the gut is good for you. In other words, all those things you've been told over the years that you should be eating, for example, all those herbs and spices and veggies, they're good for you, and they're also good for the gut. So the more of those we can put in there, the better it is for all of us. A simple introduction to gut health, but there is so much more to learn, and I really look forward to you joining us and really getting into some of the nitty-gritty of it, because I'll sum it up. 50% of Australians have gut issues, and the other 50% don't know they have gut issues.
Thank you, Peter. That is really, really great. It's really enlightening presentations about the gut health. I think we all need to hear that. We all need to learn that. Yeah, so that is a great presentation. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for giving your time and being here. Now, also, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can post your question in the chat box. We've got a few more minutes, so Peter will try to answer those questions. Peter also, by the way, is a lecturer in a new course that AIHFE is going to introduce, which is a Health and Wellness Diploma, which is a national recognized qualification. The course actually is a new course which we are starting actually in a week time. We are also planning to offer another gut health consultant certification course, and Peter would be one of the main lecturers in that certificate course, which runs over 10 weeks period. So they are something that those are some of the projects that Peter is involved with us with the AIHFE now. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask before I introduce the next speaker, and then Peter will stop the sharing of the screen shortly so that Madeline can start sharing her video presentation, the PowerPoint presentation.
Sam, if there's no questions, I'll ask one for myself. What about vinegar? Because everybody knows about vinegar. Everybody has heard of vinegar, and there's a lot of debate. Vinegar is really such a simple tool to help fix the gut. It costs a few dollars from any health food store, any supermarket, a good brand, and it can really improve digestion. And why it improves it is twofold. One, it increases the pH. It makes it, it lowers the pH. So you've got an acid in the stomach. Vinegar has a pH of 2. And secondly, it introduces a whole microbiome with probiotics, prebiotics, and what's called postbiotics into the large intestine. So it helps two major parts of the digestive tract straight away. So vinegar is a great tool, but what you've got to do is work out when and where to have it, because it has lots of other multiple benefits at the same time, like regulating blood sugar level. And that's why when I talk about fixing the gut, if we develop strategies that are good for the gut, they tend to have all these positive ramifications around the rest of the body, because it's all connected.
Excellent. Peter, can I also ask you one question from you here? Now, how much of vinegar do you recommend?
Sam, whoops, can you see my hand? There it is. Oh, there it is. That much,
Yeah. Okay.
half a centimeter in a glass and diluted with about 4 to 5 times more. Always dilute it.
Okay. So it's about
And
5 milliliters, you think probably about.
yep, always dilute it. And you can have it um for digestive reasons, you can have it but right before a meal or at the beginning of the meal, not at the end, at the beginning of the meal.
Yeah.
And that way you avoid what's called the acid bubble, which I'll talk about later one day. And the other one is you can have it in between meals, and it has other benefits there, including helping regulate blood sugar levels. But again, two separate ways of using it for two very different reasons.
Okay, excellent. There are a couple of other questions I will quickly ask them. Is it apple cider or normal vinegar?
Look,
Which one?
it's always an organic one with the mother. The mother is the murky little bit down the bottom. In other words, it hasn't been pasteurized, sterilized, filtered, and everything else out there. So it's always an organic one with a little bit of murky stuff underneath. Mix it up a little bit every time you have it. That's the murky bit is the actual prebiotic, probiotic, postbiotic. So that's what's really good for the large intestine. That component part of it. The white vinegar, absolutely great in the garden and in the kitchen and to clean the mold off the ceilings, but don't have the big white, the big bottles of vinegar or the big bottles of vinegar that cost $2 for 2 liters or something. That's only for the kitchen.
That's excellent. Thank you, Peter. I think we have a few more questions. I think because of the time limitations, we will probably answer these questions later on. So now I will introduce you to Madeline, our next presenter. So Peter, if you please stop the sharing the screen so that we can get the Madeline to do that. Thank you. So we get Madeline. Madeline is, some of you already know, Madeline is a naturopath. She has been in practice for 25 years or more. She is actually one of the scholars of the Australian Institute of Holistic Medicine before it became Australian Institute of Higher and Further Education. And I am also quite a proud teacher of Madeline, as well as Madeline actually is not only a naturopath, she is also actually a lecturer in multiple training organizations and higher education institutions who teach naturopathy, as well as she actually has co-authored one of the very well-known recommended book amongst the many educational institutions called Case Studies for Complementary Therapies, published by Churchill Livingston. So without any further ado, I have the great pleasure in introducing Madeline Bishop to talk about nutrition. Over to you, Madeline.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sam. Yes, we have known each other for many years, perhaps too many years. Time does fly. And welcome to everybody who's joined us tonight. It's a privilege and to be able to share my passion, which is nutrition. I have to say that what Peter has been talking about resonates very strongly with me. And fundamentally, we are what we eat. Literally what we put in our mouths becomes who we are. And so gut health is obviously related significantly to what we eat. And there is so much information and misinformation out there on nutrition. It's very confusing. Every time you go online, you might read somebody's blog and they'll say, you've got to follow a paleo diet, or you've got to be a raw food vegan, or you need to combine your macros, or it's got to be based on your blood group, or all sorts of other issues, or all sorts of other suggestions or recommendations. And it's a challenge if you don't have an understanding of the basics to know where to start and how, what's right, what's wrong. So what we're doing, what I'm doing this evening is just giving you some basic facts about nutrition. And as Peter mentioned, evidence. Where's the reality? Let's look at the basic facts about nutrition so we can have an understanding of what should we be eating And how can we make sense of the claims, and how can we work out whether what somebody says is correct or not correct, or something that you read? So we'll start. There we go. Welcome. As I've already said, I should have moved to this slide earlier. There's an image of some very healthy looking food. Not surprisingly, this would be the sort of food that Peter would be telling you to eat for the health of your gut. It's got all sorts of important nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients that are really very, very important for good gut health. So let's start with the basics. Let's look at what they call the macros, if you will. Macronutrients. Macro means big. So these are nutrients that we require in reasonably large amounts each day. And protein. Everybody hears about protein. What is protein? Well, we are basically protein. This finger that I'm holding up, that fingernail that you see, it's got a bunch of things in it, but it's also got protein. Protein is the, if you want, is the matrix upon which the body adds minerals and other things to it. But it's not just our muscles and our skin. Our body uses protein to make antibodies, which of course is a really hot topic at the moment because of COVID. Hormones are made out of proteins, and enzymes, digestive enzymes and different types of enzymes. Obviously, there's tissue structure, which I've mentioned, and also the transport and the storage of nutrients around the body. We need protein. Our blood cells are made out of protein. So protein is a very important nutrient, and any dietary regime that reduces protein below recommended levels will ultimately have long-term health implications. Now, we don't have to eat dead animals to get all of the protein we need. Protein is made up of amino acids. Think Lego. You get some Lego bricks and you put them together in a particular way and you build a car, and you put them together in a different way and you build a man or you build a house. And the body takes the different amino acids and builds them to make different structures. So if we get all of those essential amino acids out of our food, plant-based foods, we can get all of the protein that we need. And then we look at another important macro, carbohydrates. Carbs are sometimes seen as the enemy when people are trying to manage body fat levels, weight loss. But carbohydrates are essential for good health. And a diet that is too low in carbohydrates will, in the long run, cause significant health problems. And so whilst we probably tend to eat too many carbohydrates, particularly from refined and processed foods, there are healthy carbohydrates. There's a picture of healthy carbohydrates. Vegetables contain carbohydrates and fruits contain carbohydrates. So any diet that is restricting your vegetable and fruit intake is one that you really want to think twice about following. So fundamentally, carbs provide fuel. They are what our body prefers to use for energy. It can use other things, but it much prefers carbohydrate-rich foods. But very importantly, carbohydrate-rich foods maintain intestinal health. So what Peter was talking about, the things that make for good, healthy gut are the foods that contain a variety of different types of fibers, because different fibers do different things. And very critically, we need a good variety of healthy fibers to maintain the microbiome in our intestine. And as Peter said, if you don't have health in the gut, you're going to have issues in other parts of the body. So an important aspect of healing the gut and restoring health and promoting good health is to have that healthy microbiome, and that requires the right type of carbohydrates, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then the final macro, I have forgotten to mention water. I sort of, everybody sort of forgets, well, not everybody, but it's not uncommon to sort of skip over water. Water is a macronutrient, and that's the first thing that we will die of if we stop eating and drinking, dehydration will kill us before starvation will. So that's essential. But fats and oils, you know, very controversial. Should we have a high fat diet? Should we have a low fat diet? Fats are all bad. No, some fats are good. Saturated fat is bad. No, saturated fat is good. We should have lots of vegetable oils. Oh, hang on a minute. No, we shouldn't. It's very confusing. But there are some basics. We need a variety of different types of fats. These are called essential fats or essential fatty acids. It's essential because if we don't consume them, we don't get them, and that eventually impairs our body's function. So what do they do, these various fats and oils? Well, it's an energy source. High fat foods are high energy foods. They are required for the absorption of certain vitamins. What we call the fat-soluble vitamins need dietary fats to absorb them. Without the right type of fats, we can't make the brain chemicals, or, you know, brain chemical production is impaired. We have impairment of hormonal production. We have problems with inflammation in our body, particularly where the fatty acid balance is incorrect, and we have, which is very common in the Western diet, we consume more fats that drive inflammatory processes. So we tend to have these inflammatory processes going on. Fats are necessary, you know, healthy fats in the body for the conduction of messages, nerve messages, and cell division, and a whole bunch of other things, immune health. So we need the right type of fats. I mean, we all tend to eat fats, but the standard Western diet is very high in unhealthy fats, which are okay in very small amounts occasionally. I'm not saying don't eat your hot chips, but have them very rarely. You might as well enjoy them when you eat them. Just don't make it a regular occurrence in your diet. So what does that mean? What is good nutrition? We have an image here on the right of the screen, which is the current latest healthy eating pyramid put out by Nutrition Australia, which is the professional association of the Australian Dietitians Association. Now, those of you that remember the food pyramids from years ago will remember that the bottom of the pyramid was where you were supposed to have all your grains. And look what they've done. They've swapped it. The largest amount of foods that we should be eating each day are vegetables, legumes, and a smaller portion of fruit, but that is the largest portion. The next step up is our grains. So look at the carbohydrates that we're getting in the bottom two layers, and whole grains. And then we've got our proteins, our dairy or alternatives, and our proteins. And at the top, healthy fats, limiting salt and sugar, enjoying herbs and spices, drinking plenty of water. So a good healthy diet, like the one sort of outlined on this pyramid, gives you all of the macros and the micronutrients that you need. Now, it's whole foods that I'm talking about, because there's, you know, lots of food out there. But when I'm encouraging consumption of carbohydrates, I'm talking about whole foods, because there are significant issues with ultra processed foods in the Western diet. And that might be a phrase that you're not familiar with, or you might be familiar with. So basically, unprocessed or minimally processed foods are foods that we find we basically consume them in the way they come. So we eat an apple, or we eat a banana, that kind of thing. And then you've got processed foods, and there's varying degrees. Minimally processed foods, you bake a potato in the oven. That's processed, but it still would be considered a whole food. If you eat frozen vegetables, they're considered processed foods, but on the scale of things, they're not nearly as bad as some other options. So the other way that you can look at what we should be eating is what they call an eat well plate. So you sort of think to yourself, you know, a pyramid is not how I envisage my food, but how much should I have on my plate? And so the National Health and Medical Research Council of Australia have got some recommendations about portion sizes in our daily intake. And you can see that they recommend equivalent amounts of whole grains, carbohydrate-rich foods, and vegetables. But if you combine the vegetables and the fruits, that's the the largest amount. Moderate amounts of healthy proteins, dairy and alternatives, and small amounts of healthy fats. So a healthy diet needs to be varied. We need to eat variety from all of the food groups within each food group, and not just the same old foods, but eat variety and have a rainbow of vegetables and fruits, because different colors provide different compounds, provide different colors. So balance it, follow the recommendations, control portion size, moderation. And so ultimately the ABC is of healthy lifestyle and diet is an adequate diet. So it's got all of the nutrients that we need. It's balanced, it's calorie controlled, which is an issue in the Western diet, because people often eat a larger amount of calories than their body needs. And there are the subset of people that eat less than their body needs. Have a diverse diet, and don't forget to move. We were designed to move. Humans are designed to move, and it's an important part of being healthy. So a whole food diet contains more than just vitamins and minerals and macronutrients. There are compounds called phytonutrients or plant nutrients that we're discovering contain a range of important things for our health. There are things called zoonutrients, and they are nutrients that come from animals. Probiotics is an example of zoonutrients. The phytonutrients are antioxidants. They help protect us from oxidative stress, which is a phrase that means waste products or products from metabolism that can cause damage to cells, that cause aging and disease. Phytonutrients help to protect us. They support healthy immune system. There is significant evidence that diets that are high in plant-based foods, that are high in phytonutrients, are significantly protective against all of the things that tend to kill people in the Western world: cancer, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, and things like cataracts. We now know that things like conditions like macular degeneration and cataracts are actually a result of oxidative stress in the eye, either in the lens or in the retina. And so they can be, the progress of these diseases, depending on the type of the condition, can be modified. And some studies have shown in early stages can be reversed. If you eat this kind of a diet, you are much more likely to live a long life, but also a healthy life. We don't want to, live a long life and be sick and miserable, but longevity is associated with a whole food, mostly vegetarian diet. And I'm just going to finish off briefly mentioning vitamins and minerals, because the micronutrients, we talked about macros, we now talk about micros. What is a vitamin? It's something that living organisms make. It might be made in a plant, they might be made in animals. Vitamins are required to sustain life, health, and well-being. If we don't get them, things start to go wrong. There are particular vitamins that are called essential, and they're essential because if we don't eat them, we become deficient, and deficiency causes disease. We either can't make them, or if we do make them, we can't make enough for the health needs of our bodies. And the reality is, when we're under stress, when we've got underlying health conditions, as we get older, as we're trying to protect ourselves against a condition, things like COVID, we will have a higher need for a range of vitamins. And they're split into two groups. I mentioned the concept of fat and water-soluble vitamins. We've given them very imaginatively vitamin A, D, E, and K for fat-soluble. They all do different things. And the water-soluble vitamins as vitamin C and the B group vitamins. The difference between fat and water-soluble vitamins predominantly is in how the body absorbs them and how the body stores them. It is easier to become, to get toxic levels of vitamins if you are taking excessive amounts of fat-soluble vitamins in supplement form. It's more difficult to get toxic levels of B group vitamins and vitamin C because they flush out of the body. But if you try really hard, you can still achieve that goal. I hope you don't want to, but it will not occur from dietary intake. Those sorts of toxicity things tend to occur with supplements, taking too many supplements. And this is just a little summary from a textbook that we will be using in the nutrition units in the Diploma of Health and Wellness course, and it's just a summary of the vitamins. And as you can see, you've got a list of the water-soluble vitamins on one side and the fat-soluble vitamins on the other side. And it basically demonstrates the difference between how the body uses them, how they are excreted, and how often we need them. And so water-soluble vitamins are needed regularly on, every day in some cases because of the fact that they flush out of our systems, where fat-soluble vitamins tend to take longer to become deficient. Okay. And then what are minerals? Minerals are not made by living organisms. Minerals are in the soil. And the plants that grow in the soil take the minerals up. So healthy soil is essential for good mineral levels. There are also mineral deficiencies in certain areas, and that impacts on the mineral content in the foods. But again, the minerals we're talking about, the nutrient minerals, are essential. If we don't get them, we begin to get health issues. They are elements that are found in the soil, and our bodies need them, as I've said, to sustain our life, our health, our growth, and our well-being. So we either get the minerals from the plants that we eat, or we get the minerals from the animals or the animal products that we consume. And I've just put a list of what we call the essential minerals. These are the minerals we have to get in order to maintain health. On the left side of the screen, the major minerals, and those are minerals that we require in doses of above 100 milligrams a day. That's the average adult. And trace minerals on the other side are minerals that we need to maintain health, but we need them in levels or doses under that, daily amounts under that. Mineral deficiency is commonly underestimated in the community, and people will often have marginal levels of minerals. So, they're adequate, but sometimes adequate's not enough, particularly, again, if people are in particular risk groups, health issues or age or population groups. Poor gut health impairs on the absorption of these nutrients from our food, and that can in turn result in deficiency. So I would love to share more with you. Those who know me know how passionate I am about this. If you would like to learn more, consider enrolling in our Diploma of Health and Wellness, and I will lead you through the fascinating world of human nutrition. Okay, so that is the end of my slideshow. I can see there's a chat message.
Thank you, Madeline. That is really great. You have done a great job. In fact, you were talking about the Diploma of Health and Wellness, which I was meant to talk about it once again, but you did a great job on that. Madeline is, by the way, is one of the key lecturers in that particular course. So if you enroll in the course, you will hear from her about nutrition. She teaches nutrition, 2 units of nutrition. There was a question, Madeline, I don't know whether you're happy to answer that question. It's about the question was asked, and you can read the question, is that It is mainly directed for Peter. Now, Peter isn't there right now. I don't know whether you would be able to answer that question.
I can answer both of the questions that I
Go
see.
ahead. Go ahead, Madeline. If
So
you can do it
Sally
in.
has said, is it necessary to take probiotic tablets? And the answer is possibly, but not necessarily. It really depends on the situation of the individual. Probiotic supplements have their use, but of far more importance is providing the food for the good bacteria in our intestines, because we've learned that the body's kind of got its own microbiome, and you can put probiotics in there, but often within a few weeks, the body's reverting to its default mode. However, we've now learned that we can change our microbiome, our gut microbiome, through what we eat. And it can change within days. It can begin to change within days. So as a nutritionist and a naturopath, I really encourage people to get the diet correct, because if you put a plant into dry soil with no compost, you're not going to expect it to thrive. The bacteria need to eat something, the healthy microbiome. So we need to feed it the food that allows healthy organisms to grow and inhibits the growth of unhealthy organisms. And then Lisa asks, what's the first step to start on good gut health? Consider what you're eating. Healthy microbiome will result from eating plenty of vegetables, meeting those minimum recommendations of 5 serves of vegetables and 2 serves of fruit a day, minimizing your consumption of ultra processed foods. And when we talk about ultra processed, I'll give you an example. We talked about potatoes. A processed food, minimally processed, is potato, is baked potato. Ultra processed would be hot chips. And really ultra processed is things like Pringles chips. You can buy potato chips that are basically just just potatoes that have been fried. And I mean, we're not even going to talk about trans fats and why that's bad for your gut. But the more processed a food is, the more unhealthy it's going to be for your gut. So eat foods, whole foods, as close as possible to the way they come in nature, with minimal processing. I mean, we have to cook food and we have to process certain foods. But your question is always, how processed is this food? How many steps of processing have gone on, and how many additives have gone into it? Okay. I hope I've answered that to people's satisfaction.
All right. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you so much. And if there are any other questions, we will try to answer them. There were a few requests earlier too about gut health. Now we will try to answer them, and maybe we will try to. Someone has requested or asked whether this will be shared among the participants to listen later on. This is a very common thing. Even when we are lecturing someone, they always ask, can we have it recorded? But they never listen to that. So if not now, it will be
Dr.
never.
Sam, I'm sure these people really want to listen to it. There's so much information. Yeah. It's information overload.
Yeah. So we will try to share that information with you guys. Thank you, Madeline, once again. I appreciate your time. Madeline, as I said before, is also one of the key lecturers of the Diploma of Health and Wellness brand new course, which is national recognized qualification. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you so much. Once again, I appreciate that. So let me now do my presentations. Of course, I have to introduce myself. Most of you probably know me, have met me at some stage, or some of you perhaps at least. I have been give me 1 second here. I just want to share the video. All right. I hope you all can see the screen that I'm sharing right now. Yes or no? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the see, but I can't see it here. All right. You all hope you all can see the screen at this stage. Can you? If you can say yes on the chat box. Yes, beautiful. All right. Okay. So I have been running the Australian Institute of Holistic Medicine from the time of its inception. 1990 we started, and then college went through a number of changes. So I have been instrumental, together with another friend of mine, Dr. Andrew, who is a GP, still currently practicing, to establish the college. But he's no longer working in the college, but I run the college myself with group of very passionate teachers who share their passion uh, and share their knowledge with you guys, or with whoever they are come to contact with. So the today my presentation is primarily about the um, how to boost your energy level just in 10 days. Now, uh, I know you may have heard so many presentation earlier, but this presentation is about something for you to do within next 10 days. Now, I guarantee if you do apply these principles within next 10 days, your life will change. Your life will change again. If you apply these principles, your life will change again. So that is the promise, that is the guarantee that I will give you, because I have been using these principles for many years, and I have been teaching them. I have been living and breathing these principles. So I say these things with absolute convictions, confidence, that if you do apply them, your energy level will boost immensely within next 10 days. So how many of you try to give it a go? If I say it doesn't cost you anything, it is very simple to use. Some of you already know that. Some of what I'm saying here is actually some of them come from the previous speakers, both Peter and Madeline. They talk about these things. So I'm going to summarize it and put it in a different context that you can apply every day for the next 10 days. Okay, who thought that we will have something called COVID and our life will be stopped? People will stop us getting mobilized. We will be prisons. We will be prisoners in our own home. Who thought that will happen? Who thought that we can't travel anymore? Who thought these things going to happen to us? But it has happened, right? So imagine one day the sun ceased to rise. You are in dark. It appears it has happened in the past once before. In Europe, they were living without the sun for a while. Sun ceased to rise. Imagine that happened again. Sun ceased to rise. The moon stopped. Everything stopped. And suddenly a genie appears. Someone, say creator of this universe, if you believe in that, came and say, hey, you came with nothing, and I decided to give you nothing. Since you are a good person, I will make an exception. I will give you one thing, only one thing. If that is the thing that you want, what do you want right now? If that question is asked by this creator that come to this world right now, what would be your answer? What would you tell? What would you ask? Would you like to type your answers in the chat box? What do you think that you would be asking from the creator? Okay. Someone is saying water. Caroline is only one who wants water. Nobody else wants anything. They are all happy. They are very content. They will tell the, okay, sunlight and water, right? Excellent. All right. Okay. Clean water, healthy air. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Some of the people already gave the answer. So that's great. So you can see how basic we could be, rather than complaining about when we are in that situations. We will be asking, when we are forced to ask one thing, and we need to ask that quickly. The most important thing, without which we cannot live for more than 4 or 5 minutes or even less, is the oxygen molecule. So perhaps we may ask, please give us some oxygen. please give us oxygen. When the oxygen comes, then of course the plant will grow. Then of course we can breathe. We can figure out what we are going to do now. But we got only 3 to 4 minutes to live without the oxygen molecule. So therefore, we have to ask oxygen molecule first. So what I'm talking about here, I'm talking about importance of breathing. So big deal. We all breathe. Of course, I do know that. But I'm talking about this particular type of breathing that I encourage you to do once a day in the morning as you wake up, which is not a new technique that I invented, very old one. People have been using this. And your life will change. Your energy level will go up dramatically. So to do that, this is what I would suggest you to do. Relax, stand up, everyone. Stand up if you could. Stand up, where I can see you. Come on, stand up. Take a deep breath, as deeper as you can, through your nose. Deeper, 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 and hold. Hold as longer as you can. And then, when you think that is enough, that is all you can hold your breath for, slowly exhale, taking longer time to exhale than you have taken to inhale. So taking a deep breath, hold it as long as you can and slowly exhale through your mouth, taking longer time to exhale. This can be done at home. It doesn't matter whether you are in a lockdown or not. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it at home. Practice that. If you are already in lockdown situations, I'm empathetic towards you. I can understand your frustration, but let's make that time to make something different. Focus on your breath. When you are doing that, just focus on the breath. That's all you have to do. Be grateful for that little oxygen molecule. Hold it and slowly exhale. So that is the exercise number 1 for the next 10 days. You can actually send me an email if it did not work. All right. So that is how confident I am on this. So taking a deep breath, few things it does. Number 1, it nourishes oxygen. As you know, when you breathe in, not every oxygen molecule that takes in through your breath is not getting into your blood. Only certain percentage that gets in. The rest of the oxygen get trapped in what we call the anatomical dead space. So only about 70-80% will get in, and the rest, of course, will be trapped there in the tract. So therefore, you are taking a deep breath, giving more oxygen to your alveoli, through which it gets into the blood. And also you massage your abdomen. Abdomen has got a beautiful little what you call the area called cisterna chyli, which is actually the little tank of your lymphatic fluid. And it massages that area. And by increasing the pressure in the abdomen, of course, when the pressure in the abdomen is increased by your deep breath, by pushing your diaphragm down, it massages this little lymphatic area, cisterna chyli, and it pushes the lymphatic flow, your lymph flow, from the abdomen, from the cisterna chyli, through the thoracic duct into your blood, into your chest to purification purpose. So it actually gives a little lymphatic massage to your abdomen too, other than just taking oxygen into your body. So it gives multiple benefit to your body. And also when you take deep breath, your parasympathetic nervous system get activated. You become instantly relaxed. All right. So I gave you the benefits, and I asked you to do this particular exercise of deep breathing at least once a day. But please don't do it by the side of the main road where there are so many traffic. So you will end up with getting lead toxicity and so on and so forth. You can do it at home if you can't go anywhere. Otherwise, good place you can choose. Second thing, what we need is water. Now, there is something called subclinical dehydration. I'm sure some of you already know this. Dehydration. So water, what is the problem with this? Because as you know, the water is an important molecule. We need to have water. Now, if you look at the water composition in the body, you can see that the brain actually need about 85% of the water, and then your blood contain about 95% of water. And then you can see the heart need about 79% of water. It contains about 79% of water. Muscles, 75% of water. The water is needed for a purpose. So imagine you are dehydrated, subclinically dehydrated. Your brain depending on water. You can see that about 85% of water. So therefore, what will happen? You feel drowsy, you feel tired, and also your blood contains 95% of water. Of course, what happened? Blood cannot transport the oxygen and other molecules. It gets sluggish. It won't flush your system. So therefore, you get naturally very tired. So rather than going for the next coffee, I suggest that you take at least 2 liters of water per day. Why 2 liters? Because as you know, your kidneys filters, both kidneys, about 180 liters of fluid per day. I'm not suggesting that you got 180 liters in your body, but it goes that many times. So within 24 hours, about 180 liters gone through the kidneys. And out of that, 178 liters get reabsorbed back into your blood and 2 liters passes through the urine. So what we are suggesting is at least take that 2 liters of uh, 2 liters of what you call the water, and ideally you must start drinking water early in the morning as you wake up. I normally take about 1 liter of water straight, and then I keep on refilling with water throughout the day, warm water. So that if you are hydrated enough, your desire to drink coffee, your desire to drink all caffeinated drinks will decline dramatically. Try that. So drink water consciously, warm water, ideally in the morning. See what happens. Number 3, exercise. We all know that exercise is needed for us to increase our cardiac pump. Increase exercise is needed to increase the mobility of our joints, and also exercise is needed for us to have a good lymphatic flow, to detoxify. As Peter suggested, the gut, start from the gut. So it is not only gut. When you do the exercise, it actually help to eliminate all these toxins. Not only that, as you know, exercise release beautiful chemicals in our body, which you call the neurotransmitters. And these neurotransmitters make you happy, make you relax. So if you haven't done any exercise, something, of course, I encourage you to do. I'm sure you all know this benefit, but I just remind you. You might say, look, we can't do any exercise right now because we are in lockdown. Even we can't go and do exercise. That's okay. If you are in a lockdown situation, do exercise by standing in one place. You can run in one place. Just run like that. Do it for about a couple of minutes until your heart rate increases. Do it for 2-3 minutes. If you can't walk for 20 minutes or half an hour, see what difference that will make. Every time you feel tired, you can do this exercise. Just it take only 1 minute, and you will start breathing rapidly. Of course, your heart rate will increase, and you will feel quite euphoric and energetic. So exercise. If you can't do exercise half an hour every day, at least do it in the same place. You can keep on walking, standing in one place, and see what happens. With the objective of increasing your heart rate and breathing, see how it will change your energy level. Restrict your sleep, which is contrary to what you may have heard. Previously, you may have heard you need to have adequate amount of sleep. Look, amount of hours that we need to sleep per day. We said average 8 hours for an adult, but it's not necessarily be the case for every person. Very often we get tired. One thing, of course, when we don't have enough sleep, you might feel tired. More so than that, when you are worried that we don't fall asleep, that causes more tiredness than the sleeplessness or insomnia itself. So therefore, if you don't feel sleepy, don't go to the bed. Just do some work, do some reading. I promise you, when you do some reading, you might fall asleep. The other day, I told my brother, hey, I also had some difficulties of sleeping by about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I wake up. Then he's told me, that is a blessing. Do you know that comes with the blessing? It tells you that you must do something meaningful. I know I do regular meditation. He said, why don't you use that time for meditation as it has come with the blessing? The moment I changed my attitude, rather than worrying about that sleeping issue that I have slept only 4 hours, I started a bit of meditating. I fell asleep just like a baby. So it is not the insomnia necessarily that make you to feel tired. It is the worrying about the insomnia, lack of sleep. So therefore, when you find it difficult to sleep, please take a deep breath and then do something meaningful with that time, and you will have the desire to go to sleep. And if you think that that time you have consumed very well, you have slept very well, and then slowly increase that time, and then you will take the necessary time that your body requires to sleep. Next point I'm suggesting is eat less. Now, what does that mean? Eat less means, obviously, I'm suggesting to you, eat food with low glycemic index. Now, we all know this. Madeline didn't talk about that specifically, but she was talking about some carbohydrates, nuts, and the fruits, etc. As a rule of thumb, complex carbohydrates, the nuts, they contain considerable amount of low glycemic index. So therefore, low glycemic index is less than 55, and the high glycemic index is more than 70. So then, of course, you find the in-between glycemic index. So lower the glycemic index is, that will keep you more energetic. So eating nuts, eating complex carbohydrates, eating some fruits, of course, have higher glycemic index. So things like apple, things like pears, they have got relatively lower glycemic index. Nuts have got the lowest glycemic index, except cashew nut has got about 25 or something, and the chestnut has got about 54 glycemic index. Other nuts are very, very low, so they are not even indicated in the glycemic index. By the way, the glycemic index is maintained in Sydney for the entire world, in the Sydney University. So they have gathered all this evidence. So they share this information from the rest of the world. So try and eat low glycemic index food, and then that will really increase your energy level. You know this through your experience. When you had a heavy meal, you go for a buffet meal and have a heavy meal, what happened? The next thing you want to do is actually fall asleep. You will fall asleep. You will sleep. So therefore, eat low glycemic index meals, food, wherever you can. You can actually increase the frequency of the food intake, and rather than taking a big meal, because when you take a big meal, you know, it increases the cardiovascular or blood flow to your stomach and the digestive system. It reduces the blood flow to other vital organs, and you feel tired and you feel sleepy. So that is the next point that I would request you to do for the next 10 days. Limit your coffee, limit your alcohol. As I said before, when you take enough water, when you are sufficiently hydrated, the need for you to drink a lot of coffee and even alcohol will decline dramatically. I'm not asking you totally eliminate them. If you want to have 1 cup of coffee per day, or occasional glass of wine or alcohol, whatever you drink, well, you must give a treat. But for the next 10 days, try to avoid them. Drink plenty of water. Whenever you get the desire to drink coffee or alcohol, drink water and see what happens. But before you get the desire, try to maintain that. So that means start drinking water from the morning, and then slowly increase your water intake. You may flush more. You may want to go to toilet more. You will feel quite energetic. I will promise you. And the last one is detoxification. Detoxify your body and mind. It's absolutely important. You know that whenever you are angry, when you have got various negative emotions, jealousy, fear, all those negative emotions, what happened? You feel drained. There are days you may have already experienced. You haven't done a lot at all physically, but you are just being on a chair and thinking about something very negative. What happened? You feel so tired. You feel so lethargic. Imagine that you enjoy your company of beautiful friends. You're having a good laugh. You enjoy the day with them. What happened? You haven't done any exercise, but still you feel very happy. So the emotion play a vital role in your level of energy. Imagine you here in the morning as you wake up, you won $1 trillion or $1 million lotto, even maybe $500,000 lotto. How do you feel about your energy level? It goes up, right? So all the things that the way how you interpret various things that happen to you will definitely increase your energy level. So read good books rather than listening to the news so much nowadays. All the time what you hear is COVID numbers, how many people are dead or how many people have got COVID. These are the restriction and all that. That probably might not be good news to hear nowadays. So refrain from reading news unless for a maybe short while for important news you can hear whether there are any obstructions, whether there are any new laws, new rules come up. Otherwise, try to avoid watching this television unnecessarily for next 10 days and also reading the newspapers also unnecessarily for next 10 days. Instead, practice reading a good book, something motivate you, something that will uplift you. I'm sure there are so many books that we can come out with. So find those books and then read something. Uh, Enjoy the company of the people who are like-minded, who can encourage you, who sort of have the similar goals and ideas to you to enhance their energy. So have a buddy system. Work with people who are more encouraging, more happy people. And happiness is actually infectious disease. Just like your bacterial disease, viral diseases, even happiness is an infectious disease, if you like to call it disease. It is an infectious ease, not the disease. So therefore, when you are happy, you can see generally people around you also tend to become happy. When you are miserable, even people who were not miserable before tend to become unhappy. So therefore, create this happiness. Do some meditation in the morning or afternoon, whenever you can. Just focus on your breath and be there. And also have the attitude of gratitude. Be happy with what you have got. Be grateful every day when you go to bed. See, I'm so grateful for the day today. I'm happy. I'm so grateful at least that I was able to breathe today. I had the molecule of oxygen to breathe. Thank you, world. Thank you, universe, for giving that. When you have that, you can see your energy levels shift dramatically. Change your physiology. Sometimes your mindset cannot change. Very difficult to change. Of course, it can be changed, but difficult to change, but your body can be easily changed. Change your body. When your physiology change, when your body posture change, your mind will change. So boost your mind, boost your emotions by changing your body. Put your shoulders back. Stand straight. See what happened to the emotions there. If you ever feel depressed and unhappy, lift your chin, smile. It doesn't matter whether you are unhappy or not. If somebody asks you a question, how are you feeling? Rather than say, not too bad, I feel depressed, say, I feel great, fantastic. Then you might say, no, I don't feel fantastic, so I'm lying. That's okay. Fake it until you make it. And when you constantly doing this, people will be wondering, what the hell? What has happened to this fellow? He's smiling, laughing for no reason. That's okay. But you are happy. That's the most important thing. When you are happy, you become more energetic. And also find a job, find a work that give you interest, that give you a meaning. People are asking me, those who have dealt with me before, you may have seen that I send emails on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, anytime. People are asking me, don't you have a life? So this is my life. I love what I do. This is my hobby. So make your work a hobby. You might say, no, it is not easy for you. Well, nothing comes easily. You need to find your niche. When you do something that you love, people will know that you have a great passion. Passion, ladies and gentlemen, give you the energy that will give you some purpose, some meaning to live. That is what gives you energy. All right. I think that is my formula for you for the next 10 days to practice and see what happens. I suggest that you do most of them, at least if not all of them, see what difference that will make. I really love to see the results. I'm results oriented, goal oriented. I would like to see something happen. I think these are simple enough. It doesn't cost you any money. Try these things and then see how you go. All right. Well, are there any questions that you would like to quickly ask? Okay. All right. Well, if you don't have any questions, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Um, I appreciate that. And then, yeah, please take this message home too, and then share with people whom you love. This was done with the good intention of actually sharing this experience and knowledge by many people. As you know, three of us presented this. So We will be in touch with you. If there are any questions, please feel free to post your questions. Uh, you know, we will try to get the link for the recording and send it to you as well, if you are interested, and hopefully that will help you in the future for your future reference. All right, guys, thank you very much once again. I also thanks Tiffany for coming and helping us in the background, and everyone for being here. Thank you. Good night. All the best. Stay safe, stay happy, live with passion. Thank you.